Welcome to episode 119 of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. I'm your host and fellow student, Michelle Nelson, and together we'll learn the basics of home design and construction and demystify the building process so we can better understand our options and build quality dream homes with or without a general contractor. After last week's listener question episode about what to do when your bids are coming in above expected, I thought that a more in-depth mini lesson on the bid process would be helpful. So that's what we're talking about this week. Once we have a detailed plan of our project in the form of accurate architectural drawings and written specifications, the bid process can begin. Our goal in going through a competitive bid process is not just to get the lowest price for our job, but to get the best quality work for the lowest price. Before we dive into the mini lesson, let's define a couple of pro terms. We've talked about these in previous episodes, I'm pretty sure, but I think we need to review them before we move on. Our pro terms this week are construction drawings, specifications, and construction bids. Construction drawings, also called house plans, include the floor plan and elevations or exterior images of the house. They may also include a wall section, which is a technical drawing of a cross-section through the home's wall. The wall section shows what's inside the wall. The construction drawings or house plans demonstrate the shape, appearance, and dimensions of a house. Any details missing on the house plans should be clarified in the specifications. The specifications, or specs, describe what materials should be used and how they should be installed. You'll need specs for the major trades like electrical and plumbing, but also for smaller parts of the project like painting, roofing, concrete work, and flooring. At a minimum, specifications list the materials and list any special installation requirements. Specs are much more valuable, though, if they're more detailed. The specifications don't have to have every single nail and screw detailed, but they should include specific detail, as specific as you know, such as the manufacturer and model number, and possibly the size, weight, and dimensions of different materials. In addition, specs should specify the method of installation or construction you want. And the last pro term, construction bids. Construction bids are proposals prepared by subcontractors for each part of the work to be done on a project. Subcontractors usually specialize in one specific type of work. Bids detail how that tradesperson will complete the work, what materials and methods will be used, and how much that will cost. A bid is not a contract. It's kind of a pre-contract document. A contract is a legal document, and a bid is not. Once you accept a bid, you can proceed to the contract phase. Okay, now that we have those pro terms straight, let's move on to the mini lesson on the bid process. If you're acting as the general contractor for your house, you'll have to manage the bid process. That can be very time-consuming. It may take 4 to 8 weeks to go through the entire bid process. So start well ahead of the date you want to start construction. If you're hiring a builder, he will handle the bid process, if he even uses a bid process. Some general contractors employ tradespeople who work for them on all their projects. Since those GCs already have tradespeople working for them, they don't participate in a bid process. Even GCs who have no employees might not want to go through a bid process. They forego the bid process because they want to hire specific tradespeople who they've worked with in the past. Many builders don't want to go through the bid process because it's easier and less time-consuming to go with subcontractors they know and trust rather than shop around. Before you hire a general contractor to build your home, you might consider making the bid process a stipulation of him getting the job. Consider requesting that he go through a bid process and that you go over the completed bids together. The bid process will give you as homeowner a level of confidence that the contractor is being diligent in shopping around for the best prices instead of simply hiring all his buddies for the project. If the builder has buddies in each trade that he likes to work with, you might ask that he gets a bid from his buddy, plus at least 2 additional bids for each trade. That way, you can make sure that his favorite subs have competitive prices. Alternatively, you can ask if it's okay if you give the plans and specs to a few trades and get bids on your own to compare with your builder's bids. The builder might not like that, but it will help to make sure that you're getting a fair price for your project. Now, remember, you're not necessarily looking for the cheapest sub. You're looking for the sub that can do the best quality work for the best price. I hear over and over again, whether you're acting as a GC or hiring a GC, that the quality of your finished home is greatly dependent upon hiring subs who do good quality work. So, if your builder's favorite subs are slightly higher in price than his competitors, it might be worth going with the GC's favorites because they most likely have a history of doing good work. If, however, his favorite subs' prices are significantly higher than the competition, you might ask your GC to negotiate for a lower price. Or you might even go with the cheaper bid, as long as the cheaper sub has a good reputation. All right, now let's say you're acting as owner-builder and you'll be going through the bid process without a builder. Here's what you can do. Once your house plans are complete, you'll need numerous paper copies of those house plans. You can Google blueprints and your area and find out where you can get those copies made. The more copies you have, the more quickly you can distribute them to each sub to start the bidding process. Some subs are okay with electronic copies of plans, but honestly, most subs that I've talked to prefer paper copies. Ideally, you'll want a list of 3 or preferably 5 subcontractors for each trade. If you're not sure what subcontractors you need and how to find them, you can listen to 2 of our past episodes for help. Episode 22, called What Subcontractors Do I Need to Hire to Build My New Home and How Should I Manage Them? And episode 94, called 16 Effective Tips for Finding and Hiring a Good Subcontractor. Okay, so after you've made your list of 3 to 5 subs per trade, you can begin the bidding process. You'll need to set up a time to meet each sub on your home site and give them a bid package. The bid package should include the house plans, the specifications, and a document with administrative information like the property address, a request for copies of the sub's insurance and license, a tentative construction schedule, your contact information, and the bidding deadline. It's customary to give subs about 3 weeks to complete their bids. Some people also include a sample contract in the bid package. You might also ask how long the bid is good for in case you aren't planning to start construction right away. As an owner-builder, with a little help from Google and maybe a consultant, you can pretty easily come up with the administrative info for your bid package. And you'll get your house plans from your online source or your architect or house designer. But where do we get specifications? Well, you can attempt to write them yourself, but I'll tell you, you have to have a lot of specific knowledge about all different areas of construction to do that. For example, you don't just need to document that you want a concrete slab foundation. You'll need to specify the thickness of the slab and the strength of the concrete you want to use. For electrical wiring, for example, you'll need to specify the type of wiring and load centers, the number of circuits per unit, individual unit metering or project metering, plus the space conduit for future load requirements and radio and TV antenna systems. Okay, frankly, I don't even know what most of that stuff is. So for me, writing up my own specifications is not realistic. But if you have a fairly good understanding of all the specifics that you want for your new house, you can write it up on your own. There's some spec writing software out there that you can use. I'll have links to those in the show notes. They include things like eSpecs, Spec Writer, and UDA residential specifications. Now, the disclaimer here is that I know nothing about those programs. I've never tried them, and I'm not planning to try them because I don't want to write up my own specs. But in my research, those are the software packages that I found to help you write specs. For those of us who lack the time, experience, and knowledge to come up with the specifications, we can get specs from an architect or a builder. Specs are often included in your architectural package if you've hired an architect to design your house, or a part of the construction package if you've hired a builder. If you've hired a builder and you have no interest in being involved in the bid process or in choosing specific materials for your house, you may never see the specifications. But if you're an owner builder who is not using an architect or a builder, you might want to hire either professional as a consultant to help you do your specifications. Usually all they'll need is a set of house plans and a few conversations with you. If you don't want to do the specifications all by yourself, but you want to be involved in choosing some of the materials and methods for your new home, you can develop a list of all the materials and methods that you do know that you want for your new house. In that case, you should list as many products as you can by brand name and model if possible, plus any specifics that you know that are important to you. For example, if you know you want wood, double-glazed windows with a low E coating and a high solar gain coefficient, put that on the list. If you know what brand and style of window you want, list that too. And if you know you want those windows to meet Energy Star standards, add that to the list. For most products, you can specify that they be installed, quote, according to the manufacturer's printed instructions, end quote. I'll have a template in the show notes that might help you organize your thoughts for that specifications list. Now, these are not meant to be formal professional specification sheets. They're just some sheets to help you give the architect or builder some idea of what you want and to help organize your thoughts. Take a look at the show notes at BYHYU.com for those templates. After you've developed a list of materials that you want included in the specifications, be sure to give your consultants and even the subs bidding on your house, give them a go-ahead to tell you if something you've specified doesn't make sense because of your budget or for some other reason. Since we're not experts, getting input from building professionals can be really helpful. When you don't supply subs with detailed specifications for the bid process, competitive bidding can encourage some subs to plan for shortcut construction methods and for use of lower quality materials and craftsmen. They might list those poor quality materials and methods in the bid to come up with a lowball bid in hopes of landing the job. So it's a good idea to develop a detailed specification document so all subs will be bidding on the same materials and scope of work. To make bid comparisons easier, you might consider including a standardized bid sheet with the construction documents and ask the contractors to submit their bids on that standardized form. You should be able to find one online. That standardized form will make it easier to evaluate the various numbers once you get the bids back. It's okay if the tradesperson wants to submit a bid in his own format, but ask if he can also submit the info on your standardized form. Subs probably won't want to use the standard form, and they may give you some resistance, especially if they have plenty of work on the horizon. Depending on how much resistance you get, you may have to nix the standardized bid form idea, but it's worth asking about since the standardized form will make it much easier for you to compare bids. A huge advantage of the bid process is that it gives you as homeowner an opportunity to get feedback on your project and ask tradespeople if they see anything in your plans or specs that's missing or that can be changed to save you money without significantly compromising the quality of the work or the timeline. Ask subs to make notes of those things and look over their suggestions when you get the bids back. Once you receive the bids back, review them carefully, side by side with others. Break each bid down, comparing item to item, including labor, materials, extra work, and upgrades. One contractor may include work that another considers to be extra. It's important to take that into account. If your specifications are very detailed, though, the bids should be pretty similar. Differences might be due to cheaper overhead and labor and better prices for supplies and materials. Be cautious of bids that are much higher or much lower than the others. Carefully evaluate those bids against your specifications, making sure that the extra high bids don't include higher grade materials or methods than you've detailed in your specs. You should also question why extra low bids are significantly cheaper. If one bidder is way below the rest of the pack, there usually is an explanation. Either the sub is working for a lot less money, or he has much lower overhead, or he's using inferior materials, which you can guard against if you use detailed specs, or he may have made an estimating error. If the sub has made an oversight and you get the bid back that hasn't included certain items that you want, give the sub an opportunity to revise his bid. He may have simply overlooked that detail. And if for whatever reason you make any revisions to your plans during the bid process, make sure you send the changes to all the bidders so everyone is bidding on the same details. If you have a good feeling about a subcontractor, but his bid is significantly higher than others, ask him why. There might be a good reason. You could also ask him if he could come closer to the lower bid price. When you get the bids back from the subcontractors, make sure they've given you copies of their license and insurance so you can review them. You want to make sure that they're up to date. If they can't produce license and insurance documents, cross them off the list. Before making your final choices, check out each company on the Better Business Bureau website and call at least 3 references, including a builder or homeowner from one of the sub's recent jobs, plus a builder or homeowner from a job that the sub completed 5 to 10 years previous, just to see how his work holds up over time. Next, interview each sub by phone. You might ask questions like, how much lead time will you need to have your crews on my job site? How many days will it take to finish each phase of your work? Can you commit to a timetable for finishing? What do you need from me to ensure an on-time start and finish? Can you recommend subcontractors and other trades that you think would do a good job on this project and charge a fair price? How do you charge for change orders? You should also ask the major subs if they would be willing to do a pre-construction dinner meeting to discuss the project with other major subs. And ask the subcontractor how long they warranty their work. Finally, chat with them about any changes that they may have suggested to save you money on your project. After the interviews, you should have a pretty good feeling or a pretty bad feeling about each sub. Your final decision may be based less on price and more on your gut feeling about each sub, plus their references and their responsiveness to your phone calls. A final word about the bid process. Not all subs who are invited to bid on your project will bid on your project. They have to decide if it's worth their while to spend hours and hours of time working on a detailed bid. Just like you're sizing up the contractors, they're sizing you up too, and your job. They have to decide if they have time to do the bid, if they have time in their schedule to do the job, and if the job is worth the profit they would make. They'll also consider if the site has any potential access problems for trucks or equipment. All those factors will be taken into account and weighed against the sub's need for work. Competitive bidding remains the most common approach to awarding construction contracts. It usually achieves its goal of getting the owner the most work for the least money. After reviewing your bids and references and talking to the leading bidders, choose the lowest bidder who you trust the most. The lowest bidder who you have the best feeling about. Even if you don't choose the absolute lowest bidder, spending an extra 2%, for example, for peace of mind and better quality work is well worth the extra cost. Well, that's it for our mini lesson. Let's review a couple of key points with some quiz questions. Question number 1. True or false? A construction bid is a contract. That's false. A bid is a proposal, not a contract. Bids detail how subs will complete the work for a project, what materials and methods will be used, and how much that will cost. Question number 2. The bid package that's given to each sub bidding on the project should include what? A. House plans. B. Specifications. C. Administrative info, like the property address, your contact info, and the bidding deadline. Or D. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. And the last question, number 3. It's customary to give tradespeople how long to complete a bid? A. 1 week. B. 3 days. C. 3 hours. Or D. 3 weeks. The answer is D. 3 weeks. That's all I have for you this week. I hope you learned as much as I did. And I hope you'll come back next week for another episode of Build Your House Yourself University. BYHYU. Please remember that the purpose of this podcast is simply to educate and inform. It's not a substitute for professional advice. The information that you hear is based only on the opinions, research, and experiences of my guests and myself. That information might be incomplete, it's subject to change, and it may not apply to your project. In addition, building codes and requirements vary from region to region, so always consult a professional about specific recommendations for your home.